Hello. I always thought I was a rational man. The kind who doesn't jump to conclusions, who looks at facts, who doesn't let emotions dictate his next move. So when I saw the first message pop up on her phone, can't stop thinking about last night. Same time next week? I didn't react. No rage. No heartbreak. Just stillness. Like the eerie quiet before a storm. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself, making coffee like any other morning. I looked at her. Really looked. The way she laughed at some joke playing in her mind, the casualness of her movements. I had seen this woman at her worst and at her best, but I had never seen her as a liar. That was the missing piece in my understanding of her. The version of her I had believed in had never existed. So I did what any reasonable man would do. I kissed her on the forehead, took my coffee, and sat down at the table, my mind already setting the pieces into place. I wasn't going to confront her. That would be weak. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg. That would make me pathetic. No, I was going to make sure that when she fell, she would land so hard that she'd shatter into pieces too small to ever put back together. I needed to know everything first. Who, how long, how deep. So I played the fool. I let her kiss me goodnight, let her laugh at my jokes, let her call me the best husband in the world, while she was sneaking around with some other man. And oh, how easily she lied. I saw it now. The two perfect excuses, the forced enthusiasm when she talked about her ladies' nights, the sudden increase in gym sessions even though she never cared about fitness before. She had become a better actor than I ever gave her credit for. It took me 3 days to find out who he was. Michael. The name alone made me smirk. Such an ordinary, unthreatening name. A man with the audacity to sneak around with another man's wife should have a name with more bite, more force. But Michael was just Michael. A guy with a gym membership and a midlife crisis, clinging to the illusion of his fading youth by sleeping with another man's wife. Pathetic. I followed her once. Just once. Enough to see them together. Enough to confirm what I already knew. He kissed her the way I used to, held her waist the way I once did, whispered in her ear like she was the only woman in the world. It was almost poetic, watching it unfold from the shadows. She had no idea she was being watched. No idea that the man she was betraying wasn't just going to leave. No, I was going to ruin her first. That's when I saw her. Her. Michael's girlfriend. Or maybe his wife. A stunning woman with the kind of confidence that turns heads when she walks into a room. I watched them from a distance, but I could already tell she didn't know. She was still living in ignorance, the same way I had been. That wouldn't do. I had found my opening. So I played my part. It wasn't hard. A simple, accidental meeting at a coffee shop near Michael's gym. A casual conversation about mutual acquaintances. A few well-placed compliments. She was sharp, charming, and just a little bit guarded, like she had an instinct for knowing when someone was trying to deceive her. Good. That meant when she fell for the truth, it would hit her even harder. I didn't rush things. I took my time, just like my wife had. Let the foundation build. Let the trust form. Let her start seeing me the way she once saw Michael. It was almost poetic. My wife had taken something pure and twisted it. So I was going to take something twisted and make it mine. And when the time came for her to witness the grand reveal, oh, it was going to be beautiful. I used to believe that my life was the definition of stability. Not perfection, because perfection is a fairy tale we tell ourselves when we're too afraid to admit that nothing lasts, but something close enough. It was a life built on routine, trust, and quiet certainty. The kind of life where you know exactly what the next day will bring, and for the most part, you're grateful for it. Mornings were always the same. I would wake up to the soft sound of my wife shuffling in the kitchen, the faint aroma of coffee drifting through the house. She wasn't much of a morning person, always moving a little slower until the caffeine kicked in, but that was part of her charm. I liked the way she lingered in front of the window, sipping her coffee in silence, lost in thought. Some days, I would walk up behind her, wrap my arms around her waist, and she'd lean back into me with a contented sigh. Other days, I'd just watch, appreciating the quiet beauty of the moment. Our house wasn't extravagant, but it was ours. A cozy two-story with a small garden in the back, where she'd once tried and failed to grow tomatoes. She had a terrible habit of forgetting to water them, but she never let that stop her from trying again every spring. I still remember the way she laughed when I pointed out how much money we were wasting on seeds. One day, I'll get it right, she'd say, grinning as she wiped dirt from her hands. Evenings were predictable in the best way. She would curl up on the couch, reading one of her endless mystery novels, while I half-watched whatever was playing on TV. Sometimes, she'd read passages aloud, trying to get me to guess the ending. She always found it hilarious when I got it wrong. I think she liked the idea of being the smarter one in those moments. I let her have that. Our friends saw us as one of those couples who had it all figured out. The ones who weren't dramatic or messy, who didn't fight over stupid things or keep score. When we hosted dinner parties, people would joke about how we were relationship goals. She would roll her eyes at the comment, but I knew she secretly liked it. She liked the image of us. Looking back, I wonder if that was part of the problem. Maybe it was all just that, an image. A carefully curated version of our marriage that looked effortless from the outside, but had small, almost invisible fractures forming beneath the surface. I see them now. The signs I ignored. The way she started taking longer to get ready before meeting the girls. The way her phone, once casually left on the counter, was now always face down, always within reach. The way she suddenly cared about fitness, even though she used to roll her eyes at people who posted gym selfies. But at the time, I didn't think twice. Because trust wasn't something I ever had to question. Because I believed that we were solid. Because I was a fool. I didn't see the cracks until they had already split wide open. Until the version of our life I had believed in was nothing more than a beautifully constructed lie. It started with a single, almost insignificant moment. The kind of thing that, on its own, wouldn't raise suspicion. A minor inconsistency. A flicker of something off-kilter in the rhythm of our life. She was in the bathroom, drying her hair, when her phone, normally left on the nightstand, buzzed against the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even particularly interested. But something about the way it buzzed, not just once, but twice, then a third time in quick succession, made me glance at the screen. No name, just a number, and a preview of the message. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again. The words sat there, undeniable, staring up at me like a wound torn open too fast. My first instinct wasn't rage. It wasn't even shock. It was that strange, chilling stillness. The kind that settles in right before something goes terribly, irreversibly wrong. A second later, the message disappeared, swallowed by the autolock on her screen. My fingers hovered over it, debating whether to pick it up, whether to scroll through, whether to see what else was hiding beneath the surface. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there, coffee in hand, watching the bathroom door. Waiting. Listening. When she finally walked out, towel wrapped around her body, shaking water from her hair, she barely spared me a glance. She had no idea I had seen anything. No hesitation, no guilt in her posture, just the same easy confidence she had every morning. That was the part that unsettled me. She had become good at lying. I tested it, just to see. Your phone was going off a lot, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Everything okay? She barely blinked. Oh, probably just the girls planning this weekend. A smooth, practiced lie. That was the first crack. Small, almost invisible, but there. Over the next few days, I started noticing more. She was suddenly protective of her phone in a way she had never been before. It was always on silent now, always face down. She never left it unattended for too long. When she texted, she angled the screen away from me. Subtle movements that felt rehearsed. Then there were the extra shifts. A new project at work that suddenly required late nights, weekends, unexpected last-minute calls. She had always been dedicated to her job, but this was different. The kind of different that didn't add up when I casually asked for details and got only vague, dismissive answers. One night, I decided to test her. She had told me she was going out with friends, one of their usual wine nights. She was dressed for it. Heels, makeup, the kind of effort she only put in when she wanted to be noticed. I played the supportive husband, kissed her on the cheek, told her to have fun. Then, 10 minutes after she left, I texted one of her closest friends. Hope you and the girls have a great time tonight. Tell Lauren not to drink too much, or I'll be picking her up again. The response came back almost immediately. What? We didn't plan anything tonight. Is she meeting up with someone else? That was the moment. The second crack. Bigger now, spreading fast. I stared at the screen, the words confirming what my gut had already known. But instead of confronting her, instead of calling and demanding answers, I waited. Because I wasn't interested in just knowing. I wanted proof. I wanted to see it for myself. And when I finally did, she wouldn't even see me coming. There was no more room for doubt. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. No more chalking things up to stress or coincidence. I knew. I just needed to prove it. I started small. Subtle things she wouldn't notice. She had always been careless with her phone before, leaving it lying around, letting notifications pop up freely. Not anymore. Now it was always close, always locked, always guarded. Her passwords had changed. The one I had always known, the one she had used for years gone. That Wasa woman doesn't change her passwords unless she has something to hide. Then there were the calls. Short, hushed conversations that ended the second I walked into the room. The kind where she'd force a smile, tuck her hair behind her ear, and pretend she was talking to a coworker. But I could see it in her eyes. The flicker of tension when she realized I was too close. The way she'd casually put the phone down, screen facing away from me, then change the subject before I could ask who it was. One night, as she slept beside me, I watched the faint glow of her phone screen flicker in the dark. A message, then another. She had muted the notifications, but she hadn't thought about the light. I turned my head just enough to see. No name, just a number. It wasn't enough. Not yet. So I played my part. I asked about her work, her nights out, her new routines, all the while watching her closely. She had never been a good liar. Not really. When I asked about her schedule, she hesitated, a half-second pause before answering. When I casually mentioned running into one of her co-workers at the store, she tensed, a slight stiffening of her shoulders, a flick of her eyes away from mine. She was trying too hard, and that's how I knew she was already caught. I started tracking her movements. Not in an obsessive way. I wasn't checking her GPS or following her car. I didn't need to. She was predictable. Creatures of habit always are. I simply started noting the inconsistencies. She said she was at work late. I called the office, casual, polite, just a simple, "Hey, is Lauren still there?" I wanted to surprise her with coffee. The receptionist hesitated before answering. "Oh, she left a couple of hours ago. She said she was out with friends." A quick text to one of them, the same one she thought I wouldn't check. "Hope you guys are having fun." The reply? "What are you talking about? We haven't gone out in weeks." Lie after lie, stacking up like a house of cards. One night, she said she had a work dinner. I let her go, let her believe she was still ahead of me. Then, exactly 45 minutes after she left, I sent her a simple text. "Forgot to mention, I'm picking up takeout near your restaurant. Want me to stop by and say hi?" She called me immediately. Not a text, a call. Panic, barely masked behind a forced, breathy laugh. "Oh, babe, we're actually not at a restaurant. We're at a private venue. You wouldn't be able to get in." A lie. A desperate, sloppy lie. I leaned back in my chair, listening to her fake warmth over the phone, already knowing the truth. Already picturing her sitting across from him, her pulse racing as she tried to weave together an excuse on the spot. She was slipping, and the more she slipped, the easier it became to tighten the noose. But I wasn't ready to strike yet. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about catching her. This wasn't about yelling, accusing, demanding explanations. That would be weak. No, I needed to crush her. And for that, I needed her to think she was still winning. So I softened my voice, chuckled lightly. "Oh, got it. No worries. Have fun, babe." She exhaled, relieved. "Love you." I smiled as I hung up. She had no idea she was playing a game she had already lost. I had already known. I had known for weeks, maybe even months, but knowing and seeing were two very different things. Knowing left room for doubt, for uncertainty, for that small, quiet voice that whispered, "Maybe you're wrong. Maybe it's not what you think." But seeing? Seeing burned away every last trace of doubt. It happened on a Tuesday. A completely ordinary day, the kind where nothing felt out of place. She kissed me goodbye in the morning, same as always, told me she'd be working late again. Another meeting. Another excuse. Another lie. I smiled, nodded, told her to have a great day. Then I watched as she walked out the door, already knowing exactly where she was going. I had been patient. I had played the long game. I had let her think she was in control. Not anymore. I left the house 10 minutes after she did. I already knew where to go. I had pieced it together from her stories, her little slip-ups, the inconsistencies she thought I hadn't noticed. A boutique hotel on the edge of town, the kind with private entrances and discreet staff. The kind of place that specialized in secrets. I didn't park too close. I didn't want to tip her off. Instead, I took my time, walked through the lobby like I belonged there, dressed like I had a purpose. No one stopped me. No one questioned me. I already knew the room number. She had been careless, too comfortable in her lies. The hotel's online check-in system made it easy. All I needed was her email, a simple password reset, and there it was, room 214, reserved under a fake name. Pathetic. I could have knocked, could have stormed in, could have made a scene. But that wasn't my style. She didn't deserve my rage. She deserved something colder. So I waited. I stood at the end of the hallway, just out of sight, and waited. And when the door finally opened, when I saw her step out first, hair tousled, lips swollen, wearing the same dress she had left the house in that morning, I felt it. Not heartbreak, not pain, just clarity. Then he stepped out behind her. Michael. I had seen pictures, but they hadn't done justice to just how ordinary he was. He wasn't better than me. He wasn't taller, wasn't stronger, wasn't more successful. He was just a man who thought he had won something that was never his to take. I let them walk past me. I let them think they were safe. And then, just as she reached for her car door, I spoke. Long meeting, huh? Her body froze. Slowly, she turned, her face draining of color, her mouth opening, but no words came out. Because what could she say? Michael looked between us, confused at first, then wary. Who's this? He asked, his voice already carrying the tone of a man who knew he had just stepped on a landmine. I smiled. Calm, collected, unshaken. I'm her husband. And in that moment, as the truth slammed into both of them, I watched something beautiful happen. Fear. It flickered across her face first, then his. Not fear of violence. They knew me better than that. No, this was something deeper. Fear of what I knew. Fear of what I would do. She stammered something. A denial, maybe, or an excuse. I didn't care. I didn't need to hear it. I had seen everything I needed to see. I took a slow step forward, watching Michael instinctively back away. Weak. I could have laughed. This is the man she risked everything for? She reached for my arm, desperation flickering in her eyes. Please, let's just talk. I pulled back, my voice cold. Oh, don't worry. We will. Just not the way you think. And then I walked away. Because I had a plan. And when I was finished, she wouldn't just lose me. She'd lose everything. I sat in my car for a long time after I walked away from them, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. Steady. Controlled. Unshaken. No trembling. No heat rising to my face. No overwhelming need to scream or punch something. That would have been emotional, irrational. Weak. And I wasn't weak. Not now. Not ever. She thought she had won something. Thought she had built a second life right under my nose, laughing behind my back, feeding me lies while crawling into another man's bed. The arrogance of it. The way she had assumed she was smarter, that she could outmaneuver me, that I would simply crumble when I found out. She didn't realize I had already been watching, waiting, calculating. But now the waiting was over. It was time to move. The first step was understanding her weaknesses. Not just obvious ones, the fear of being caught, the embarrassment of being exposed, but the things she truly valued. The things she couldn't live without. Because that's where I would hit her. Not where she expected. Not some pathetic, emotional confrontation where I demanded answers she wasn't worthy of giving. No, I would take from her exactly what she had spent her life building. I started with her career. She had spent years perfecting the image of the successful, ambitious, put-together professional. A rising star in her company, well-liked by her colleagues, trusted by her superiors. I had watched her cultivate that image, curate it like a fragile masterpiece, obsessing over promotions, networking, office politics. She thrived on respect, on being the woman who had it all, a loving husband, a dream job, a reputation beyond reproach. It wasn't just a job to her. It was her identity. So that's where I'd take my first shot. I went home that night, pulled out my laptop, and began digging. She had always been careless with technology, always assuming that a few password changes would be enough to keep her secrets buried. She was wrong. I already had access to her emails, her cloud storage, her work files. All I needed to do was find the right thread to pull. And it didn't take long. Expenses. Questionable ones. Reimbursements that didn't quite add up. Receipts that didn't match the official reports. Dinners. Hotel stays. Flights. Nothing massive on its own, but a pattern that, to the right eyes, would look like fraud. The next morning, I sent an anonymous tip to her company's compliance department. Then I turned my attention to Michael. He was just as predictable as she was. Married, or at least in a serious relationship, the kind of man who had spent years cultivating an image of success and stability, the respectable businessman, the devoted partner, the guy who would never. The kind of man who, if his own secrets got out, would watch everything he built collapse in an instant. So I made sure his girlfriend found out first. It was easy. A simple message, some well-timed screenshots, a carefully written note that left just enough room for her to doubt him first, then confront him later. By the time she realized the truth, the damage would already be done. And if I knew anything about human nature, she wouldn't just leave him quietly. No, she'd make sure everyone knew. His family, his friends, his business connections. Every single person who mattered to him. And as for my wife? She still had no idea. She was still living in blissful ignorance, still thinking she had control of the situation. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still sent me empty texts pretending nothing had changed. She didn't realize that by the time she came home, her life would already be crumbling. Because I wasn't going to explode her world. That would be too easy, too quick. No. I was going to let it rot from the inside out. I was going to let her watch as everything she built fell apart, piece by agonizing piece. And when she finally realized what I had done, she would understand that this was never revenge. This was justice. The beauty of revenge isn't in the strike. It's in the build-up, the moment when your target still thinks they're safe, still believes they've won, completely oblivious to the fact that the floor beneath them has already been sawed through. That's where I was now. Watching, waiting, knowing exactly when to cut the final thread. I had been careful, precise. Every move calculated, every piece placed perfectly on the board. The anonymous tip to her company had done exactly what I expected. It started as a quiet audit, something she barely noticed at first. Just a few emails from HR, a couple of requests to clarify certain expenses. She probably brushed it off, confident that she could talk her way out of it. After all, she had spent years charming her way up the corporate ladder. But charm only works when people want to believe you. And when a company sees a potential scandal, they don't believe anyone. They protect themselves first. By the time she realized the investigation was serious, it was already too late. The discrepancies in her reports were too obvious, the pattern too clear. I had fed them everything they needed, hotel stays, dinners, expense reports that clashed with timestamps on her emails. And the best part? It wasn't just about her. It implicated Michael too. Because some of those receipts were under his name, and some of those business expenses, they were actually funding their little affair. I watched as she unraveled piece by piece. The first sign of her panic was small. She came home distracted, scrolling through emails with a furrowed brow, barely responding when I asked about her day. Then came the phone calls, whispered conversations behind closed doors, tension creeping into her voice. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I didn't need to. I already knew. She was trying to contain the damage, trying to get ahead of it. She had no idea I was the one who set the fire. Then came the second blow. Michael's girlfriend had done exactly what I hoped she would. She didn't just leave him, she destroyed him. She went straight to his colleagues, his friends, even his family, making sure everyone knew what kind of man he really was. And because I had been so thorough, because I had given her so much evidence, she didn't just accuse him, she buried him. By the time he realized what was happening, his life was already a smoking ruin. And my wife? She was next. I planned it carefully. It couldn't just be an exposure. It had to be a spectacle. It had to be something she couldn't slither out of, something she couldn't manipulate her way through. She needed to be trapped. So I chose the perfect stage. Her company had a quarterly meeting, an event where department heads gathered to discuss financials, future projects, and employee performance. My wife always attended, always took pride in her role. She loved the spotlight. So I gave it to her. That morning, I left the house like nothing was wrong. Kissed her cheek. Watched as she adjusted her blazer in the mirror, completely unaware that she was walking into an execution. She arrived at the meeting ready to present, unaware that her name was already circulating in hushed conversations. The moment she sat down, the HR director cleared his throat. Before we begin, there's a matter of internal concern that needs to be addressed. Silence. Then, the first slide appeared on the projector. A list of unauthorized expenses. Her name, next to amounts that didn't match any legitimate business purpose. Then the next slide, emails. Carefully timestamped, showing that on nights she claimed to be at client dinners, she was actually at a hotel with Michael. Then the final slide, security footage from the hotel lobby. Gasps. Whispers. A single, sharp inhale from the woman herself. And then, the moment. The moment where she realized there was no escape. The HR director's voice was calm, professional, but merciless. Lauren, would you like to explain these discrepancies before we proceed with formal action? I would have paid anything to see your face. She stammered, tried to piece together a defense. But there wasn't one. She wasn't just exposed. She was cornered. I had already slipped the final piece of my plan into motion. By the time she left that meeting, humiliated, broken, her career in freefall, there was one more surprise waiting for her. I had emptied our joint accounts. Every last dollar that she thought she could fall back on? Gone. Redirected. Secured under my name, in places she couldn't touch. She had lost her job. She had lost her affair partner. And now, when she walked through our front door, expecting some kind of lifeline, she would realize she had lost me too. And the best part? She wouldn't even see it coming. I was sitting on the couch, sipping my coffee, when I heard the car pull into the driveway. The door slammed too hard, and then came the frantic sound of heels clicking against the pavement, faster than usual. She was panicking. Good. She should be. A second later, the front door burst open. She stood there, breathing hard, her face pale, her makeup slightly smudged from what I assumed was a long day of desperately trying to salvage her reputation. I looked up at her, calm, composed. She looked back at me, her eyes wide with something that almost resembled fear. What did you do? Her voice wavered. I didn't answer immediately. I just took another sip, set the cup down, and let the silence stretch. She needed to feel it. The weight of it. The helplessness. The lack of control. Sit down, I said, my voice steady. She didn't move. That was fine. It didn't matter. She could stand there and shake for all I cared. You lost your job today? I continued, watching her flinch. Confirmation. She had hoped, prayed that I hadn't found out yet. You humiliated me, she blurted, her voice sharp, accusing. Like she was the victim here. I almost laughed. Almost. No, I said slowly, tilting my head. You humiliated yourself. Her breath hitched. You think this is funny? She snapped, voice rising. You think ruining my career, my life, is some kind of joke? I leaned forward slightly, resting my elbows on my knees. Unmoved. Unbothered. No, I said. I think it's justice. And then the breakdown began. She staggered forward, her whole body trembling now. The anger faded, replaced by something more desperate. Please, we can fix this, she pleaded, her voice cracking. I made a mistake, but it doesn't have to end like this. We can talk. We can work through this. I let her words hang in the air, empty, meaningless. A mistake. I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You lied to me for months. You snuck around behind my back. You built an entire second life while expecting me to stay blind. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. Tell me something, I continued. Did you ever feel guilty? Even once? She swallowed hard. Hesitated. That second of hesitation was all the answer I needed. That's what I thought, I said, leaning back again. Tears welled up in her eyes. Finally, the weight of it was hitting her now, the full realization that she had lost everything, that there was no salvaging this. I don't love him, she whispered. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. You have to believe me. I did laugh this time. A small, humorless sound. You really think that changes anything? She rushed forward, dropping to her knees in front of me, grabbing my hands. I'll do anything, she begged. Just don't leave me. Don't do this. I didn't pull away. Not yet. You didn't beg when you were sneaking off to hotel rooms, I said, watching her flinch. You didn't beg when you were lying to my face every single day. So tell me, why should I care now? Her hands tightened around mine, her breathing ragged. She had nothing left. Because I love you, she choked out. Pathetic. I finally pulled my hands away, standing up, looking down at her as she knelt on the floor. Broken. Defeated. Exactly where she put herself. No, I said. You loved having a safety net. You loved knowing that no matter what you did, I'd still be here. You didn't love me. You just never thought you'd get caught. She shook her head violently. That's not true. I swear, It doesn't matter anymore, I interrupted. Her breath hitched again, another wave of panic crashing over her. You think you've taken everything from me, she whispered, eyes desperate. But I still have you. I still have this home. We can fix it, please. That's when I smiled. Cold. Final. No, you don't. I pulled the papers from the table and dropped them in front of her. Divorce papers. Already signed. Already finalized. She had nothing. Her hand trembled as she reached for them, scanning the words, her breathing turning shallow. I already emptied our accounts, I said casually, watching as her face drained of color. Everything in my name? Moved. Every joint account. closed. Her lips parted, pure horror creeping into her expression. You can keep the house, I added. But you'll have to pay the mortgage alone now. Good luck with that. She started shaking her head, unable to process it. No, you can't. I already did. The tears spilled over now, full force, her entire body shaking. Reality had finally sunk in. I have nothing, she whispered. I exhaled slowly, watching her fall apart, drinking in the exact moment when she finally understood what it felt like to be utterly powerless. Yeah, I said. I know the feeling. And then I walked out the door, without looking back. It didn't take long for everything to fall apart. She always prided herself on control, on the ability to manipulate situations, to present herself as someone untouchable. But when you strip a person down to their worst, when you take away the illusion of control, that's when you see them for who they really are. And what I saw in the aftermath, she was nothing. The moment I walked out that door, she realized she was alone. There was no backup plan, no safety net, no one to catch her when she fell. She had assumed I would always be there, that no matter what, she could spin a story, twist reality, make herself the victim. But that only works when you have someone left to manipulate. And I had made sure she had no one. Her career? Gone. The company didn't just fire her. They blacklisted her. Turns out, embezzling company funds to bankroll an affair doesn't exactly look great on a resume. The moment the evidence was made public within the organization, her carefully built reputation collapsed overnight. She tried to fight it, of course, played the "it was all a misunderstanding" card, tried to throw Michael under the bus. But it didn't work. Because Michael? He was too busy trying to save himself. And he failed. His own career took a massive hit. His girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, was relentless. She didn't just leave him. She torched him. She made sure every single person in his social and professional circle knew exactly what kind of man he was. Business connections? Severed. Friends? Turned their backs. His so-called respectable life? Reduced to ashes. And my wife? She had no one to turn to. She tried reaching out to friends at first. The same friends who once called us relationship goals, who had looked up to our marriage as something solid. But I had been one step ahead. Before she could spin her version of events, I had already told them the truth. And people love a scandal, especially one they can rally behind. She became a pariah. Socially, she was untouchable. No invitations, no support, no sympathetic ears willing to listen to her excuses. Only silence. Her family? Disgusted. Her parents, once proud of the image she presented to the world, now saw her for what she was. The shame of it was too much. They barely spoke to her. And when they did, it wasn't with kindness. It was with disappointment. Financially, she was drowning. I had made sure of that. The house, the same house she once bragged about, the one she thought she would always have, now a burden. The mortgage payments, the bills, the debt piling up from her sudden loss of income, all on her shoulders now. And without a job, without support, without anyone left to bail her out, the walls started closing in. And me? I was thriving. I had moved on effortlessly. My accounts were secure. My job? Stable, better than ever. My social circle? Intact. Because I had been smart. Because while she was busy sneaking around in cheap hotels, I was playing the long game. She reached out a few times. Desperate, pleading. First, it was anger, accusations, resentment, blaming me for destroying her life. Then, it shifted to apologies. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. Please, we can fix this. Then, finally, the last stage. Begging. She had nowhere else to go. She wanted another chance. She wanted to start over. She wanted me to save her. I never answered. Because she wasn't worth the breath. She thought she was playing a game. She just didn't realize I had already won. I saw her one last time. Not because I wanted to, not because I sought closure. I had already closed that chapter myself. But because life has a cruel sense of irony. The world isn't big enough to avoid people forever, and when the moment came, I was more than ready. It was at a quiet cafe, one I used to take her to, back when I still believed in us. I hadn't been there in a long time, but old habits die hard, and I was meeting a colleague nearby. I walked in, ordered my coffee, and just as I turned, there she was. She was sitting alone, staring at her phone like she was waiting for a message that wasn't going to come. And she looked different. Not in the way that time changes a person, but in the way that regret does. She had always carried herself with arrogance, that effortless confidence that made people believe she had everything figured out. That was gone. Her makeup, once immaculate, was barely there. Her hair wasn't styled, just tied back messily. She wasn't wearing the expensive outfits she once obsessed over, just simple, tired-looking clothes that hung a little too loosely. She looked drained. She saw me before I could turn away, and she froze. There was no way out for her now. She had to face me. I didn't change my expression, didn't let her see even the faintest flicker of emotion. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even satisfied. She was simply nothing to me now. But she stood up, as if she had to say something, as if she still thought words could fix what was beyond repair. "Hey," she said, like we were old friends, like she wasn't the reason her own life had burned to the ground. I said nothing. I just looked at her, let her feel the weight of my silence. She fidgeted, something she never used to do. Her hands gripped the coffee cup a little too tightly, her lips parted slightly, trying to find the right words. She was nervous. She knew she had no power here. "You look good," she tried, forcing a smile. "Really good." I still said nothing. She exhaled, her shoulders sagging slightly. The silence was crushing her. She hesitated, looking at her coffee like it could give her answers. Then, finally, she looked back up at me. "Do you ever think about us?" She wanted me to lie. To tell her I had spent sleepless nights wondering where it all went wrong. That I had regrets. That I missed her. But I didn't hesitate. No. It was a simple word, but it shattered her. I saw it in her eyes, the way her breath caught, the slight twitch in her fingers, the way she swallowed hard like she was forcing back whatever fragile excuse she had prepared. I was stupid, she admitted. I ruined everything. I still said nothing. Because what was there to say? She had made her choices. She had taken everything we built and tossed it aside for a temporary thrill, thinking she could have it all, thinking I would always be there no matter what. But she had underestimated me. She had played a game she didn't even realize she was losing. "I know I can't change the past," she continued, her voice softer now, barely above a whisper. "But I just want to know. Did you ever love me?" This time, I did smile. But not the way she hoped. Not warmly. Not kindly. "Did you?" I asked. She flinched. Because she knew the answer. She never loved me. Not in the way that mattered. She loved the idea of me, of stability, of a man who would always be there no matter what. She loved knowing she had a backup plan, someone to catch her when she fell. But I had taken that away from her. She had nothing left now. No career. No friends. No financial safety net. Nothing. She blinked rapidly, like she was about to cry, but no tears came. Not this time. She had already wasted them all. "I should go," she mumbled, stepping back, defeated. I didn't stop her. She turned, walked toward the exit, but just before she reached the door, she hesitated. As if she was hoping, praying, that I would call her back. That I would give her some kind of hope, some sign that there was a future where she could undo the past. But I didn't. I just watched as she walked out of the cafe, shoulders slumped, disappearing into a world where she no longer mattered to me. And that was it. No dramatic goodbyes. No final, heartfelt conversations. No redemption. She had played a game. She had lost. And me? I walked out of that cafe with my coffee in hand, feeling lighter than I had in years. Because I had already won. But let me ask you something. If you were in my place, if you had the chance to watch the person who betrayed you fall apart under the weight of their own choices, would you have done the same? Or would you have gone even further? Bye-bye.